What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. All right, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to discuss with you today as the severe weather risk continues to show signs of uncertainty, as well as some more model runs coming in that we need to dissect and talk to you guys about because more things are coming in. We need to get to the bottom of this. There's an increase of uncertainty from what we're going to be potentially seeing with the severe weather risk. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it and try to clean up the mess as best as we can here on this channel. But before we dive right in and talk about the risks, as well as look at the models and look at the parameters and all that stuff, we have our storm code from John, our head admin at Storms United. We have this right here. We are currently under a hatched code yellow and a hatched code orange for parts of New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, and those areas. This is mainly because of a fire risk that John was noting last night. So we're putting a hatched code orange and code yellow out there because there are red flag warnings. There's a large condition amount of conditions that are favorable for wildfires. So if you're in these regions, do not start any fires or anything like that. Do not do that. It's not the best thing to do. And then going further to the east, we have a code yellow and a code orange right here for the severe weather. The code orange is for parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi right here. That is encompassing the enhanced risk that the day 3 has put out so far. And because of the increasing uncertainty, we did go with an enhanced risk instead of a moderate risk. I was thinking it was going to go moderate, but the 0Z runs came in and it raised more questions than gave us answers. So that's what we're seeing right here. Code yellow extends all the way to Alabama, and there will likely be a code yellow for the Carolinas as well, due to the effects that this system could impact over there. So here's the situation that we have. Like I was mentioning previously, enhanced risk right here for Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Potentially going to affect 3.5 million people. Slight risk from Missouri in the Ozark Plateau up there all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Marginal from St. Louis all the way down to Houston and further in points east in Georgia. So that's what we're potentially looking at this current point in time. Looking at the day 4 outlook, we have a 15% risk still for New Jersey, the Delmarva Peninsula, Maryland, D.C., much of Virginia, the Carolinas, and Georgia. As this system moves further to the east, becomes more of a squall line, and then heads over there as well and causes impacts. So here's what we have. There is an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms for portions of the lower Mississippi Valley. Summary: 1 or 2 organized lines or clusters of thunderstorms and perhaps a few supercells will pose a risk for damaging wind gusts, a few tornadoes, and hail, primarily across parts of the lower Mississippi Valley into the southeast Tuesday through Tuesday night. So that's what we're generally looking at right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the lower Mississippi Valley. Some amount of convection will likely be ongoing in portions of central and east Texas early Tuesday morning. And this is something I've been talking to Tristan about, because one thing that could inhibit the severe weather risk is early convection, morning convection, because that's going to suck all the atmosphere out, not all the atmosphere out, all the instability out of the atmosphere. I do apologize for that slip up right there, but we're going to have to pay attention to that and look at some of the parameters, and we'll show you more of those as we show you the runs later in this video, but here's we go. This, along with some cloud cover further east, will have some impact on the exact degree of destabilization that can occur by the afternoon. Strong ascent along with the Pacific front will mean activity will continue to move eastward. Deep layer shear will support organized storms. Some linear clusters are possible, but supercells are also expected within what would be a relatively warm, narrow warm sector. A zone where there may be greater potential for discrete activity is from central Louisiana to central and southern Mississippi, with shear vectors oriented more orthogonically around the boundary here. Supercell potential should be higher. Furthermore, it seems likely that the greater surface heating will occur in this region as well, which will enhance that. Should this environment be realized, a strong tornado would be possible. Otherwise, very strong low-level wind fields would support scattered damaging wind gusts and even marginally surface-based storms. So that's the general gist we're seeing with what we're going on here in this deep south right here. We're going to have to continue to pay attention to it as we get more data and more information. Hopefully by tomorrow we will have a better idea as to what's going to be happening, and we'll have a better idea of what kind of risks we're looking at as the SPC puts out the tornado, wind, and hail risks. We do have this from Colorado State University. They're giving us a preliminary estimate right here. They're wanting to go 15 hatched for tornadoes in parts of Louisiana and a small tip of Mississippi right here. 15% regular for the rest of the region right here. That's in the red. 10% area south from Houston all the way to Mississippi. 5% from parts of east central Texas to Alabama, and 2% from Nebraska down to the Gulf Coast right here. Hail is, from what I'm seeing from both the Colorado State analysis as well as all the other parameters I'm looking at, is going to be the smallest threat right here. Not saying it's going to be non-existent. No, it's going to be there, but compared to the wind and the tornado risk, hail is going to be a lesser threat based on what I am seeing. And then you have the day 3 wind risk right here. 30% risk. We're getting close to actually 45% according to Colorado State, about 1/1000ths away of a chance away from getting to that 45% wind risk. We'll have to see how that pans out. If they do go moderate, I'm thinking it's going to be for tornadoes and wind, and they're going to put 15 hatched and 45 hatched on those right there, or it's going to be a combination, or it's going to be one of those two things that we're going to have to pay attention to. But Colorado State University has been on it. They've been keeping an eye on the conditions, and this is based on their analysis as well as a lot of their run modeling that they have over there. So I figured I'd go ahead and show you that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the forecast runs and kind of see what we're potentially looking at. We're going to go ahead and use the NAM right here because there have been some interesting changes that I do want to note right here. First of all, the jet that we were seeing previously, like the jet that they were forecasting yesterday to be incredibly strong on the eastern side of it, still going to be never mind. It's actually still going to be really strong. Again, I'm guessing, yeah, it's never mind. I was looking at an earlier run where it was weaker, but never mind. The jet is still going to be very strong. This is by 21Z or 3 p.m. Central Time right here. We're looking at a jet strength around 120 knots at 500 millibars for much of the region right here. That is going to really help the severe weather. And I've said this before, and I will say this again. This is going to be a shear-driven event. You're not going to see that much instability with this, and we'll show you that in a second. But you don't need a lot of instability in this case to generate a lot of severe weather because your shear is going absolutely insane with this, and we'll continue to keep you updated on that. But here's what we have going on at 500. Let's go ahead and show you what we're seeing at 850. 850, we are seeing a really big increase in the wind speeds from the North American model. We're looking at over 90 knots of wind by 21Z. At 850. Just for context, 850 is only about 5,000 feet up, and the runs are already indicating 90 knots of wind right there. I actually want to, just out of curiosity, I do want to pluck a couple of soundings off of this. I want to take a look at a sounding in Tennessee, and I want to look at a sounding further south in Mississippi right here, just to kind of see a general situation as to what we're looking at. And the thing I'm mainly paying attention to isn't what the severe risk is going to be. It's mainly the wind shear because, oh my goodness, take a look at this right here. We're looking at potentially 61 knots of wind shear from surface to 1 kilometer with an SRH almost at 1,000. I have never seen anything like this. Now, granted, this isn't a part of the region where there's not going to be enough instability for severe weather to happen, or if it does happen, it's going to be more of a squall line step. But this is the type of shear we are looking at right here. And further down south, let's go ahead and show you this right here. Here's what the kind of shear. It's definitely a little bit weaker, 43 to 76 at 6 kilometers right here, but the directional shear is quite impressive. It's definitely a lot more directional, and your SRH is still astronomical right here. Now, granted, you're not given as much CAPE right here. You're looking at around 700 joules per kilogram of CAPE, but by and large, this is going to be a very interesting situation. And let's go ahead and take a look at that surface-based CAPE and go ahead and zoom into the southeastern United States. So generally what we're noticing is there's going to be a very thin line of instability as this system moves through much of the deep south. But I do want to take a couple soundings just to take a quick look at them and kind of see, okay, we're looking at all of this. What's the main threat going to be? We're taking one in northern Louisiana and one further to the south. So here's what we're seeing in this part of Louisiana. We're looking at potentially up to 2,300 joules per kilogram of CAPE at the if you add it all up right here, and this is by 21Z. This is a pretty interesting and pretty good sounding for severe weather if you're in the deep south. What I will say, though, is okay, first of all, let's take a look at, we need to talk about this. We're looking at 88 knots of wind shear from surface to 6 kilometer. That is going to absolutely enhance your supercell development if that is to occur. And surface to 1 kilometer is about 33 knots, which is pretty good still, but 55 knots at surface to 3 kilometers, yeah, that is going to absolutely enhance your development of thunderstorms, especially with a CAPE profile that looks like this. We're going to have to take this very seriously, ladies and gentlemen. We'll continue to monitor it. But ultimately, what I'm paying attention to as well is the direction. This is not directional shear. This is speed shear right here. And what that means is you might see less tornadoes, but those tornadoes could be stronger. And that is something we absolutely do not want to see. So we'll have to pay attention to that. But here's what we're seeing as well with this. We're looking at a sounding further to the south, not as great in terms of SRH wind shear at 1 kilometer or 3 kilometers, but by and large, this is still very concerning to take a look at, and we'll have to monitor it as well. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the supercell composite. Supercell composite, definitely a little bit lower than what we were seeing yesterday. We were at around 17, 18. We're down to about 15, 16. But you're still going to want to take this very seriously. And just for the sake of argument, I did pull up a sounding for that region right there for the PDS Tor sounding right here. I'm going to tell you this right now. Ignore the potential hazard type. That's the one thing I will tell you. We're looking at 52 knots of wind shear at surface to 1 kilometer, 80 knots at surface to 6. If this does pan out and we do see some sort of discrete development with this, we're going to see a lot of problems here where by and large, I would say it's going to really, at least if anything gets discrete, oh yeah, it's going to be a big issue. And we could see tornadoes that become the initial threat, as I've been mentioning previously, before it merges and becomes a straight line wind threat. Now, granted, there's a lot of factors to this. First of all, how fast is the cold front moving? How fast is the jet going to progress? How fast is that low pressure system going to develop? We're going to have to watch it, and we're going to have to keep you updated on that. But here's what we have going on. I do want to go back to 850 just to kind of take a quick gander at it. Right here, you have this low pressure system really building up for parts of Missouri, Illinois. Those areas, we're going to have to pay attention to it as well. And we'll go ahead and also show you the precip type as well. Because if you are tuning in from Missouri, Iowa, and those areas further to the west, you're going to potentially see snow on the backside of this. I'm not trolling. You guys could actually potentially see a lot of snow, and this, because of how tight that pressure gradient is. First of all, this low gets down to about 981, near the Mississippi River. That is going to absolutely really enhance your wind speeds right here, and that snow could definitely easily blow, that could easily drift. There's a possibility we could see near blizzard conditions on the backside of this, and I'm going to have to talk to John more about that. We're going to have to keep you updated on that, but that's something you're going to want to watch as well. Because if you're in Wisconsin, if you're in Minnesota, if you're in Iowa, if you're in those areas as well, this could develop into a snow system on the backside of it. Now, granted, we're not going to see that much accumulation unless you are in Minnesota, obviously. Like, if you're in Minnesota, you could potentially see up to a foot of snow if you're looking at the NAMS run. We'll have to wait until further out till we get more data to take a look at. But you're looking at least 6 inches of snow according to this run. Let's take a look at the GFS, about 9 or so on the backside of this. This is actually going to be a pretty decent snowmaker on the backside of this if you're in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Wisconsin, La Crosse, areas north of La Crosse, areas south of Minneapolis, Rochester, Nebraska, those areas. You're going to want to take a very close eye to this. But areas down like Missouri, Illinois, about dusting is expected from this, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that, but I would be concerned if you're in these areas further to the north that are going to see this huge backside, and I could see winter storm warnings being issued for this right here, and we'll continue to update you and cover that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, at least for that type of threat. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the temperature and the dew point as well, because that's going to be very key as to how this system's going to organize and develop. So here's what we're looking at. Here's what the low temperatures that we're going to see by early Tuesday morning. In parts of Louisiana, we're seeing temperatures in the mid 60s right here. Generally, which based on what we're seeing from yesterday's forecast, you're not seeing that much of a drop off in temperature in low temperature. That's mainly because you're seeing a lot of warm air advection and moisture advection from the Gulf right there, and that's going to really help allow for an environment that's going to really ramp up and allow for thunderstorm development too. So here's what we're looking at. We're looking at temperatures with a high in the lower to mid 70s across a lot of these areas in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas. Could even see some of it as well. Dew point temperature is also going to be very important as well. You're looking at dew point temps in the upper 60s right here, especially for parts of Louisiana. Mississippi, you're looking at dew points that are going to gradually increase as the day goes on. As this system starts to become more linear, you're going to see dew point temps in the lower to mid 60s, and that's going to help enhance more thunderstorm development. That's going to help that squall line and that discrete line continue to organize and develop as it goes through much of the deep south. I would say by the time we get past, I'd say, not necessarily Jackson, but areas east of Jackson is when it's going to become less discrete and more linear. That's generally what I can gather based on all the data and all the information I'm looking at. Relative humidity is going to be also very key as well. You're looking at relative humidities in the 80s and the 90s, even before the system arrives to the region. Let's go ahead and take a look at simulated reflectivity. Yeah, this is right before the precip starts arriving. You're looking at dew point temperatures in the 80s and the 90s for a lot of these regions right here. Now, granted, this is simulated reflectivity. Take it with a grain of salt. I'll continue to watch it, but this is what we're taking a look at. The HRRR doesn't go exactly that far out. We can try with the NAM nest. Yes, we can actually try the NAM nest to kind of see, okay, what's the NAM nest going for? What's their thinking? Ultimately, what we're noticing is if it's going to be discrete, it's going to have to start to develop, I would say, around 12, around noon, before the main line starts to move through Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and those areas right there. And there is the possibility for some discrete stuff to happen in front of this huge line, but by the time the cold front passes, you're not going to see any more severe weather from this. So ultimately, it's going to be, we're raising more questions than answers at this current point, but I hope that this whole video can kind of answer some of those questions right there, because what we're noticing with this is if it does become discrete, it's going to have to do it, I would say, anytime between 12 and 3 in order for it to really start to ramp up. And also, just out of curiosity, I want to check cloud cover as well, available average cloud cover. Yeah, it's going to be a very cloudy night for a lot of these regions right here, although there is going to be the possibility for some clearing up in parts of Mississippi and Alabama over here before that line of thunderstorms and before that cold front starts to push through parts of Louisiana and Arkansas in the afternoon. So if we do see an increase a decrease of cloud cover and an increase of sunlight, it's going to allow for more instability. It's potentially going to allow for discrete stuff to organize and develop before the main line comes through, which I have noticed. This is a trend I've noticed from compared to yesterday. We are seeing a bit of an increase in terms of cloud cover right here. That's part of the uncertainty. Let's take a look at the GFS. GFS is a little bit different, I would say. You're looking at less cloud cover actually compared to what we were seeing this morning. We're going to have to watch that as well. 12Z NAM, taking a look at the 0Z, definitely a little bit less cloud cover. And I do, just out of curiosity, want to check the 18Z as well. Yeah, there is a chance that something could happen, but by and large, from what I am seeing in this scenario, is we could see a situation where the cloud cover inhibits the worst severe weather, but we'll have to see once the OBS start coming in. We'll have to see once the the short range runs come in to get a better gist as to what we're going to potentially be seeing and how we can manage to do that. But ultimately, the threat is still there. I would not be surprised if they issue a moderate risk in the next couple of days. I know I was going a bit aggressive yesterday and saying, oh, they're going to issue a moderate risk tomorrow. That was before we started seeing more runs with a lot more uncertainty to it. So I do apologize for that and misleading people there. But by and large, we got to take this very seriously. And we'll continue to update you here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. And with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us get more people engaged with weather. Shout out to Daniel as an official sponsor of the Pat's Path Predictor channel. If you want to support the channel more directly, be sure to join the Patreon. It's the first link in the description down below. If you want to talk more about the severe weather threat or just hang out, be sure to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.